Alexander always believed the world was his chessboard, and he was its master. As CEO of one of the largest corporations in the world, his ambitions knew no bounds. But one night at the city hangar, he made a fatal mistake, one he thought no one would ever uncover. Nearby, hiding in the shadows, a 10-year-old homeless girl named Zara overheard something she was never meant to know. What exactly did she hear? And how could this child end up saving the life of Alexander Kane, a reclusive billionaire whose own choices had unknowingly set the stage for danger? In just 2 days, Zara's conspiracy was exposed. Welcome to Graceful Storyteller, where today's story reminds us that heroes can come from the most unexpected places. Stay tuned for a story of danger, mystery, and bravery. The city sparkled like a sea of diamonds from Alexander Kane's penthouse. Inside, the warm glow of the fireplace illuminated his solitary figure as he sat in a high-backed armchair. A half-empty glass of whiskey rested in his hand, untouched. The room was the epitome of luxury custom furniture, priceless art, and a marble fireplace. But despite the wealth, Alexander felt a deep void. On the table beside him lay a photograph of a young woman with a radiant smile. His daughter, Elena. He picked it up, running his fingers over the frame, guilt etched on his face. "I promised you the world, Elena," he muttered. "But what's the point if we're strangers now?" Alexander's thoughts shifted to his upcoming board meeting. He would be flying out in his private jet tomorrow, but little did he know that the flight would be anything but routine. Zara sat cross-legged in a cold alley, her back against a brick wall. A flickering streetlight overhead barely lit her small figure. The faint hum of city life surrounded her, but she was used to being invisible. At just 10 years old, Zara had learned to survive on her wits. Her neat hoodie and scuffed sneakers gave her the appearance of a child lost, but her sharp, brown eyes told a different story. "People don't notice you when you're quiet," she told herself, clutching her small backpack. It carried everything she owned. Tonight, Zara was looking for a warm place to rest, but fate had other plans. As Zara wandered past the city airport hangar, the sound of voices stopped her in her tracks. Instinctively, she ducked behind a stack of crates near an open side door. Inside, Victor, the powerful CEO, stood with a mechanic. Zara peeked through a gap, her heart racing as their words carried through the quiet night. "Is everything set for the plane?" Victor asked, his tone low but commanding. The mechanic hesitated. "Yeah, but if anyone finds out..." "They won't," Victor snapped. "By the time Kane's plane goes down, I'll be running the company. Just make sure it looks like an accident." Zara's eyes widened as the weight of what she was hearing sank in. She pressed herself further into the shadows, trying to stay out of sight. "What about security?" the mechanic asked. Victor smirked. "They trust me. No one will suspect a thing." As the two men walked away, Zara's hands trembled. She knew she had to act, but who would believe her, a homeless girl with no proof? Zara paced the dark alley behind the hangar, replaying the conversation in her mind. "A plane crash," she whispered to herself, clutching her backpack. "That man's life is in danger." She tried approaching the airport security office, her small figure shivering in the cold. "I need to report something," she said to the officer at the desk. The man barely looked at her. "What are you doing here, kid? Go home." "But I overheard something," she insisted. "They're going to sabotage a plane." "Enough," the officer snapped, waving her off. "Don't waste our time." Tears of frustration stung Zara's eyes as she was ushered out. No one would listen to her, but she couldn't just walk away. She tightened her grip on her backpack, determination flaring in her chest. "I'll find a way to warn him myself." The next morning, Zara found herself outside the skyscraper where Alexander Kane's company headquarters was located. With little time and no plan, she watched as suited employees filed in and out of the building. Spotting a man in a chauffeur's uniform holding a sign with Alexander's name, Zara's heart leapt. She quickly ran up to him. "Please, I need to talk to Mr. Kane," she said, breathless. The chauffeur looked at her skeptically. "Do you have an appointment?" "It's about his plane, it's not safe," Zara blurted out. The man's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" Before Zara could explain, A black car pulled up, and the chauffeur moved to open the door. Alexander Kane stepped out, his tall figure exuding authority. "Who's this?" Alexander asked, his piercing grey eyes landing on Zara. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "Your plane has been sabotaged. I overheard it last night. They're going to crash it." Alexander studied Zara carefully, noting her small stature and nervous demeanor. "This sounds ridiculous," he said, shaking his head. "How could you possibly know this?" "Please," Zara pleaded. "I heard them talking a man named Victor and a mechanic. They said it had to look like an accident." The mention of Victor's name made Alexander pause. He turned to his chauffeur. "Get my security team. I want the plane inspected immediately." The inspection revealed tampering with the plane's fuel system, just as Zara had described. Alexander's face darkened with anger as the truth became clear. Victor, attempting to flee the building, was apprehended by security. "You betrayed me," Alexander said coldly as Victor was dragged away. "All for power." Zara watched silently, relief washing over her. For the first time, she felt like her voice had mattered. Grateful for Zara's bravery, Alexander took her under his wing. He offered her a place to stay and vowed to support her future. Soon after, he announced the creation of a foundation for homeless youth, inspired by Zara's courage. At the opening ceremony, Zara stood at his side, her eyes shining with pride. "Courage doesn't come from what you have," she said to the crowd, "but from what you're willing to do." Life began to change for Zara. Under Alexander's guidance, she enrolled in school, and her bright mind flourished. Alexander, in turn, reconnected with his estranged daughter, Elena, realizing the importance of family. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Zara and Alexander stood on the balcony of his penthouse. "You saved my life," Zara, Alexander said, "and reminded me what really matters." "You believed me when no one else did," Zara replied, smiling. "That's what saved us both." As the camera pans out over the city skyline, their bond is clear, a testament to the unexpected power of courage. If this story moved you, remember that every voice matters, no matter how small. Share this tale with someone who might need a reminder of the power of courage and perseverance. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories on Mystic Tales.